Good evening, everyone. Welcome to First Week Council Trinity term. I hope you're having a lovely week so far. My name is Catherine. I'm the Vice President for Access and Academic Affairs at the SU, and for the first part tonight at least, I will be your Chair of Council. So we're going to start. Oh, I should have said I use she, her pronouns. Sorry, my mistake. Out of practice. So we're going to start with the approval of the previous council minutes. So does anyone have anything to say on those? Anyone? None seen. Okay, so we'll approve the minutes of the last meeting. Thank you very much. Do we have any matters arising from the last minutes? None seen. Okay, so that's great. And I will now pass over to Josh for elections and council.
Hello, council. Is this on, Stephen? Is it? Okay, sorry. Hi, I'm Josh O'Connor. I'm a staff member at Oxford SU, but I will be the returning officer for these hustings, just to keep the meeting going, because we don't actually have a returning officer at the moment. And because of that, we will now move on to the returning officer election to hopefully replace me. Do we have Ariel in the room? Yeah? If you want to come to the front, we can do a hust for you. Yeah? Would you like to do a hust? Would anyone like to see a hust? Yes? Okay, would you like to come to the front? Would you like to come to the front so we can do a hust?
My claim to fame, if I may have it, is to have worked in the NHS for 8 years. And it's as stressful as it can be in the NHS. And a lot of the news stories that we hear, the staff really do try their best. And my job started as a housekeeper, which is one of the most boring things you could do there. Eventually got to the point where I was supposed to be like chief of staff to my manager. My job was to make sure the ward had everything that it needed to keep people alive and to function properly. And that meant that I had to negotiate with senior managers that had pressure from Whitehall to go in a particular direction. Sometimes I got what I wanted, sometimes I did not. But then I did learn to negotiate during those 8 years. And I bring that experience with me to be the returning officer. If you do elect me, then I hope that that experience will serve me in good stead. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for the candidate? Okay, seeing none, you can take your seat again, and we'll move on to voting. So to vote, you just press 1 to vote for Ariel, 2 is Ron, and 0 is abstain. Is that open? And voting will close in 3, 2, 1. And Ariel is elected. Congratulations. Okay, so the next election is Chair of Council. Is Elle Blackwood in the room? Well, then we cannot hust, unfortunately. So we'll go straight on to the voting for Elle Blackwood for the Chair of Council position. Again, 1 for Elle Blackwood, 2 for Ron, and 0 to abstain on your voting pad. Voting closes in 3, 2, 1. and L. Blackwood is therefore elected. And that brings a conclusion to the elections in council. Thank you.
Okay, so highlight of the evening, SAB reports. So if I could invite the sabbatical officers to come and join me to give their reports for first week, please.
Do you want to go first? Or do you want?
Okay. Talks or deliver support to students who want to come to Oxford. That'll be coming later in term, so keep an eye out. I'll send out emails. It'll be on Facebook. So if you're interested in that. We're also launching It's OK to Ask for Help. So on our social media pages from the SU, there'll be details about how to get support, ask for help with academic issues, or if you need anything, just reach out to us. Yeah, and that's it. So have a great first week.
Hey all, I'm Farheen Ahmed, she, her pronouns, and I am the Vice President Welfare and Equal Opportunities. So the last few weeks have been quite busy, just collecting a lot of data, basically. So I've been working with Kate in collecting information with regards to our mandate from third week council last term, which was about collecting different risk assessments, action plans for the prevent duty that apply across different colleges, because there's a different thing. If you don't know what that is, please give me a shout or send me over an email and you can find out more. But we're just still collecting information for that and hopefully going to be able to feed some of that into some of the university's work. I've also been running welfare officer focus groups and surveys and stuff to try and figure out what a baseline requirement for all colleges should be. And what would be realistic for PPHs as well. So yeah, I've been working on that too. I ran today a sexual health testing day with Expression Oxford and the NHS, and that was really, really good. There were 75 people who attended, and we also raised some money for the red ribbons that you wear for HIV awareness, so that was great. Yeah, aside from that, give me a shout if you have any other questions. Yeah, cheers.
Hi everyone, so I'm Katie, I'm use she, her pronouns, I'm the Vice President for Women. I always immediately forget everything that I've done as soon as it comes to standing up and telling people what I've done. From what I remember of my video report, I talked about the fact that first response is changing. You might have seen the blog post about the reasons why we have decided to scrap first response training for regular students. It will still be available for peer supporters. It's still important that people have the skills to respond to disclosures of sexual violence. However, in the interest of expanding out the amount of students that feel that they can actively engage in tackling sexual violence and other types of harassment in Oxford, we are going to be rolling out bystander intervention training, which is a much safer and less emotionally laborious way in which students can engage in that issue. So if you have any questions about why we've changed from first response to bystander, just ask me now or send me a message. The other thing that I'm doing at the moment is consent workshops. Obviously in Freshers Week, we do them across all the colleges. So training for new facilitators is going to start from fourth week onwards, so I'm starting to book in sessions in colleges. So if you're a welfare officer or a women's officer or a president or anybody who might be the person who's responsible for organising consent workshops, please get in touch and we'll book in some training. If any students are interested in the fact that we are reviewing consent workshops at the moment, you can get in touch. I'm putting together a working group of students who would be interested in going out and talking to groups of students who we don't normally engage with when we do consent workshops. So mature students, graduate students, student parents and carers, to go out and ask them, how can we get this information to them in a way that they would actually engage with? That's it from me.
Hello everyone, my name is Marianne Milson. I'm the Vice President for Graduates and I use she, her pronouns. It's been a while since our last reports to Council, so I'm just going to pick out a few highlights. One of the things I would like to talk to you about is the Junior Dean Survey. We're currently running a survey for the Junior Deans to figure out what training they received, what kind of pay they receive, whether they receive other benefits, and hopefully that can help us put some guidance together so we can make sure Junior Deans are well supported and fairly paid. Another thing I've been working on is what is called the Virtual Learning Environment Review, which is basically finding something to substitute WebLearn. If any of you happen to feel like I hate WebLearn just a little bit, could you please get in touch with me? We would love to talk to some students that have ideas about what our new VLE should be able to do and how we can make sure academics provide the information students would like to see. A final thing I would like to mention is that Tom and I, during the vacation, we've been running a program of events for the students that have been around in Oxford during the break. We're planning on doing something similar during the summer, but we'd really like to get your input, so we actually organize events you think are interesting and you would like to attend. So if you have any ideas or would like to see us organize a specific kind of event, you can either find us on social media or send us an email, and we'll see what we can do, whether we can make it happen during the summer break. Thank you.
Hello, Tom here from Oxford SU, Charities and Community Vice President. Yes, I don't have much to add to my SAB video report. You can go and watch it on the Oxford SU YouTube channel, like, favourite, subscribe, etc. And yes, so I was thinking of just plugging events this week. There is the Living Wage campaign have been working all through the vacation to FOI colleges, do freedom of information requests to colleges in order that they tell them the lowest wage that they pay people, and they've put it in a table. They've called it the Living Wage Norrington table, and it's going to be released this Thursday at Wadham. Come along, there'll be talks from experts on the living wage. It's going to be fun. Also, what's happening on Thursday is that the Oxford Climate Justice Campaign is releasing a resource pack for Common Room executives to lobby their colleges to divest from fossil fuels. So come along to that as well. I think they clash, unfortunately, but both of those events are very, very good ones if your Thursday night is looking free currently. Also, thank you to everyone who came to the HUST, the City Council HUST that was just before this student council. There is another student hustings that's going to be organised by On Your Doorstep in the SU on Monday. That's 4 Worcester Street, our offices. So come along to that. It's going to be specifically to do with homelessness. We've got 4 council candidates from all colours to come and talk about the City Council's current attitude to homelessness and what they would do as councillors to affect that.
Hello Council, I'm Kate, I use she, her pronouns, I'm the SU President. As this lot have all said, we've been really busy over the VAC, working at tying up kind of last term and setting up for this term. In terms of what I've been doing for the university, things that might be of interest with you are I've been feeding into the university's strategic plan. So they're currently rewriting their strategic plan. It went out to student consultation. It didn't get a lot of responses. So if you have any particular views, do send me an email. We're running our own little consultation, but let me know. It'd be great to have some students feed into that. Catherine, Marianne and I are also working with the University Council on the ongoing USS question, and although the strikes are now suspended, we're making sure that students' voices are still heard as those conversations go on. So we were at Congregation and Council this week talking about that. I've also been busy setting up my projects for this term, so things to look out for from me are the relaunch of the This is Oxford Mental Health Anti-Stigma campaign. We're starting with an amazing poem on hearing voices from one of our students. We're also launching the Oxford SU Sofa Sessions, which are our chances to bring in some pretty inspirational activists into the SU. So we're starting next Friday with Johnny Benjamin, the mental health activist, like personal idol. I'm so excited, so please come and join us. We're holding it at Waterstones. I'm having a lovely little chat with him on a sofa, and then there'll be a Q&A and a chance to meet him, and he'll sign copies of his book. So do come along and spread the word. Apart from that, I've also got a note from Suscam. They're having their Welcome Back social tomorrow night at the SU. This is a massively big term for suspended students. Lots of people suspend during finals, so are coming back now. So if you know anyone that's feeling a little bit lonely or intimidated about this term, tell them to come along. It's a really nice space with loads of people that have experience, so we can chat. We're also running a survey on how common rooms can better support suspended students. So as well as the university, which I'm running a lobbying campaign with, we're looking at what common rooms can do. So if you know anyone that has experience of suspension or some particular views on that, please let me know and help me fill that in. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Sabs. Okay, so now we're moving on to the NUS delegate report. So if any of the NUS delegates are here. Oh, sorry, does anyone have any questions for the Sabs? One scene. So can you please stand, get the microphone, name, college, and pronouns, please.
Dane Rogers, Merton College, here. Just a quick question for the VP Access and Academic Affairs. Would you consider lobbying the university to make it standard that there's air conditioning in the exams when it goes over 21 degrees? Because some of us in hot sunny weather, not necessarily super comfortable. And aircon would fix this while respecting the student mandate of supporting some of us.
Thanks for that point. I will definitely raise it when I talk to people from exam schools. I think it is also fair to point out that exam schools are a very old building and we struggle to even get them to put plugs in. So air conditioning might be a stretch, but it's definitely something to raise. Thanks. Yeah, another question. So name, college, and pronouns, please.
Christine Jung, St. John's College, she/her. I've got a question for Katie about changes to first responder training. The first is the peer supporters who've already trained as first responders have to be retrained. The second is whether the first responder training will be incorporated into the 30-hour training for peer supporters from here on. And thirdly, whether the bystander training will be a suitable replacement for first responder training, because we currently use them at OBS.
Yeah, thanks for that. So in regards to the first question, which was about retraining, so it's standard practice in the SU that we encourage people who haven't trained in a year in any type of training that we provide to do it again if they've not done it in a year. With regards to the second question about whether it's, was the second question about replace? Oh, including it in the 30 hours, sorry, you asked too many questions. So the inclusion of it in the peer support program hasn't been approved yet by Student Welfare and Support Services. It is likely that we will probably do it as an optional extra credit sort of thing for peer supporters. One, because I don't want this to come at the expense of the fact that we need to acknowledge that peer supporters already do a lot of training, and this should be a voluntary addition. However, I am talking to Student Welfare Support Services about how they can better incorporate first response and better signposting towards harassment resources anyway as something of a resource for peer supporters, with the intention that that resource would then promote the idea that you can go on this additional training if you feel like you will encounter first disclosures. I've forgotten the final one about incorporating first response into bystander. Oh, support, sorry. Okay, so it is not a replacement as such. It is a recognition of the changing priorities, both of the SU and also from the students that I consulted about first response training. A lot of the responses I was getting back about people who had used their first response training was actually a lot of colleges, like St. John's, are using first responders as sort of BOP angels or night safety teams, general welfare people. First response training, as it's packaged, didn't really encompass any of the skills that people really needed for that, which was sort of intervention into harassment situations, such as in clubs or BOPs, and also expanding it out beyond sexual violence to cover more general harassment. So the idea being that we will train more students in a more casual way about the ways in which they, on a day-to-day basis, can intervene in these kinds of situations. The second half of the training will be about how they then can signpost on should they interfere in a situation, and then want to support that student to find the way to deal with the incident. So in terms of whether it's adequate training for people in welfare roles and stuff like that, I would still agree that it is. The thing that we're mainly taking away by stopping calling it from first response and moving towards this more sort of proactive way of engaging in difficult situations is to try and prevent the emphasis on students being that they should be the ones that listen to first disclosures. Actually, we're going to move it towards more lobbying that junior deans, welfare deans, people who are paid in colleges should have the full training done by OSARC, which is over at least a full day of learning how to listen to disclosures. So that's something that we're going to push for, instead of emphasising that it should be something that students deal with via students, if that makes sense.
Thanks, Katie. So in the interest of time, if there's any more questions, I would really encourage you to either speak to the SABs at the end or to get in touch with them over email or social media, just so we can get on with the rest of this busy agenda. Thanks very much, SABs. Okay, so we don't actually see any of our NUS delegates here, but are any of them here that I've missed? Oh, you're here. Do you? Sorry, Kate. I was meaning non-highlight. I'm doing really well at this. Do you want to give your report from the NUS conference?
Hello again, Council. Sorry, I was expecting the other delegates to be here. I go to NUS conference, or went to NUS conference as president. That just happens. And then the 6 other delegates who you elected in our Hillary term elections. So that was a couple of weeks ago in Glasgow. It's quite an interesting experience. It's very long, it's very hard, it can be quite frustrating, but we also passed some great policy, and it's a wonderful way to meet up with other students from across the country, talk about policy, lobbying, meet with the NUS team and put pressure on them for what they're doing or what they're not doing. And yeah, I think my voting record should be online, is online. Sorry, you'll have to excuse, it was really difficult. They booked a venue that didn't have Wi-Fi, so we all struggled to upload things online, but I'm happy to talk about anything to do with transparency of voting, and I'm sure the other delegates are, but just drop me a line or the delegates a line. Their details are online if you have any questions.
Thanks very much, Kate. Any questions for Kate? Oh, got a couple. Okay, can we make these quite short, because we do still have quite a lot to get through. So name, college and pronouns, please. Thank you.
Sam, Burton College here. Just on this Futures of Conference, can you give us maybe 2 or 3 highlights of things you were particularly pleased happened?
2 or 3 highlights of things I was particularly pleased. Can you let me think and I'll listen to that?
Hi, Alex, him, Wadham. Would you mind just saying the candidates that you voted for welfare and president? Just check. Is it online? I can't find it right now.
For welfare, I voted for Eva. And for president, I Rond. And highlights. I'm trying to think. We passed some really cool policy around mental health. There was a big conversation about how do we do more than kind of well-being events, which was quite an interesting conversation to have at the national level. So what can the NUS actually be doing to push for policy reform around mental health, as well as putting on all the lovely well-being stuff that lots of SUs do. We passed some great stuff about postgrads, which Marianne is shouting at me. They're running quite a lot around the postgraduate campaign. It's been a really active campaign this year, which is really lovely to see, because SUs tend to struggle to engage with postgrads because you're all nice and busy and working pretty hard. So there's lots of moves happening in NUS to better represent postgrads. And some of the HUS were really pretty amazing to hear. There's some really cool people doing some really cool work, and it's pretty inspiring to hear some of the stuff they're doing and sort of how we can translate to the SU. So there's some things about housing, there's some stuff about what we do for incoming sabbaticals. Hello? Okay, for incoming sabbaticals and campaign chairs and stuff around dealing with the press, especially having Oxford in our name, which, yeah. So, yeah. Sorry, it was a very long 4 days. There were definitely highlights. It just felt long and quite a while ago.
Okay. Thanks very much, Kate, and thank you for those questions. Okay, so next, do RAG or any of our campaigns want to give reports? One scene.
Hi. You see him. Celebrate, which is our biggest fundraiser. So we thought we should give you some information. The information is a read. One of our flagship events. It's when you have 36 hours to get as far away as possible from Oxford without your own money. And so we raised £14,000, which is more than last year. And our teams got to Budapest, Barcelona, Dusseldorf, Singapore, and loads of other places. Did everyone hear the rest of it? Cool. So that was really good. We're looking forward to next year and our upcoming events this term. So if you have any questions about RAG or about Jailbreak or about anything else, then do get in touch with me or get in touch with the RAG stuff, and do keep letting everybody know about the fun stuff that we do at RAG. Thanks.
Thanks very much. Is there any questions for RAG? Okay. The impact report on our website to see some of the fantastic work that RAG and Jailbreak have been doing. So thank you very much. Okay. Okay, so we're now going to move on to the motions in council. Just before we start with these tonight, we have a busy agenda. I'd also just like to remind everyone to please be respectful. Some of these issues tonight are contentious. People are going to have lots of different views. You might hold different views, and that's perfectly fine, but please respect speakers. So no laughing, no sniggering. Please allow people to speak. And yeah, we will do our best to make sure that everyone gets a chance to be heard. Okay, so first motion is 5th week Freddos for Oxford Nightline. So does the proposer want to come and speak?
So I'm Bill Golden. I'm at Pembroke College. Pronouns he, his. This council notes, Nightline is a listening, support and information service run for and by students of Oxford and Oxford Brookes universities. Nightline offers a safe space for students to talk about whatever they would like to, with no judgment and complete anonymity, every day of term from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. when university counselling services are closed. 75% of British students experience personal distress while at university, and 1/3 of students report having these experiences at night. University counselling services can be subject to long waiting times and require students to discuss their problems in person. Nightline volunteers are specifically trained to support a wide range of distress, including callers who self-harm or express suicidal thoughts. Nightline has previously had large success running 5th week Freddo events where students can send a supportive message and a Freddo to friends or themselves in terms Michaelmas term 2016 and Hillary term 2017 through cooperation with Oxford Student Union. And in 2017, the form for submitting a 5th week Freddo request obtained the maximum 900 responses in just 2 days. This council believes that Oxford Nightline is a valuable mental health resource for the community, offering necessary, anonymous and confidential support when few other options are available. Relaunching the 5th week Freddos event will provide a useful publicity opportunity for Oxford Nightline and encourage peer support among students, and engaging in practices to publicise Nightline to the community is beneficial to general student well-being. Therefore, this council resolves to provide a cap of £300 to Oxford Nightline to buy 900 Freddos and envelopes to carry out their 5th week Freddo event in week 5 of Trinity term 2018. A form will be released on Wednesday, 4th week on oxfordnightline.org/Freddo. To collect responses, then Nightline volunteers will be responsible for packing the messages and Freddos. To assist Nightline in the distribution of Freddos using the internal mail service, and to publicise the event, Oxford Nightline will email all college welfare reps and post on Nightline social media, and Oxford SU will use resources like their websites and/or email lists to help raise awareness for the event.
Okay, so first, does anybody have any short factual questions about this motion? None seen. Oh, sorry. Yep.
Hi, I'm Gwen. I'm from St. John's MCR. I use she, her pronouns. I was wondering if this is only Freddo specifically, or if there's any alternatives that would have, for instance, no lactose for people with allergies or other dietary restrictions.
I believe it's specifically Freddo's, but if we did a future event, we could take that into account. But currently, I think it's just Freddo's, unfortunately.
Would it be possible to request the organisation to provide alternative ones this year?
Personally, I don't know. I don't know whether you'd have to amend the motion.
Hey, Faheen, she, her, Oxford SU. Just in response to that, yeah, it's probably fine to get alternatives. I'm sure the Nightline will be fine to do that. I don't think that's a concern.
So yeah, it could be possible. I'm sure. I don't know.
Any other questions?
Dean Rogers, Burton College, he, him. Your motion gives the impression that they ran out quite quickly. Would you consider an amendment maybe to buy another 300 so they don't run out as fast? It's exam time, people are going to be stressed. There's probably more demand for it at this point.
Yeah, I don't know how far the £300 goes. Yeah. Oh yeah. So I don't think so currently.
Thanks. Any other questions? No. Okay. Is there any opposition to the motion? None seen. So the motion passed.
was created following recommendations made in previous visions. And it is a compilation of Oxford SU's bylaws, policies, previous vision statements, student council motions, SU mandates, both from council and from our manifestos themselves, all of which have been previously passed through council. The liberation vision is the start of putting liberation issues at the heart of the SU, because as is well documented, discrimination against students can affect their participation, achievement, retention and progression in this education system. Oxford SU has a strategic commitment to ensuring our students have the best possible experience, and we hope that the liberation vision will ensure that the SU lobbies accordingly for this aim.
Okay, thanks very much, Katie. Does anybody have any short factual questions for Katie? Over there.
Anna Brandford, Sunderland College, She/Her. Can I just ask what work with, in terms of this being a conduct document, is meant to be clarified exactly what that will be used in?
Yes. So for clarification, as part of the liberation vision, we have a section on our work with external organisations. So I believe you're referring to the bullet point which says that we will endeavour to only work with external organisations who agree to adhere to the Equality and Diversity Code of Conduct. This is basically something that we already do in principle at the SU. The idea is that we just want to put it into practice and make sure that it does inform all of our work through the next 3 years, rather than on the ad hoc basis in which we do it at present. The section on external organisations is basically a restatement of existing practice, and the idea is that we bring it as part of the vision so that if you want, you can inform the direction that we take in terms of that code of conduct. So if anybody has any questions later on about things that they would like to see in that Equality and Diversity Code of Conduct, this is the time to bring it up. Any other questions?
Chief Blackfriars, could I just ask, what exactly is meant by external organisations? Does it include student societies or not?
This is more in relation to police, charitable services, such as the ones that we usually advertise at the end of training. For example, we would only want to advertise services which adhere to the same kind of values that we do. Also, if we were promoting events, this would give us the right to refuse to put in our newsletter things that we did not feel adhered to the values of the Equality and Diversity Code of Conduct.
Can I?
Yeah.
Sorry. Just as one clarification, my name's Fanny, I'm sorry, for clarification, the Code of Conduct wouldn't necessarily apply to external organisations, it would be an organisational responsibility. So the SU as an entity would have this Code of Conduct. It's gone through various points. It wouldn't necessarily apply to, I'm assuming you're talking about fascist and things like that. That's something you engage with student societies. At that stage, you have different form terms and conditions that apply to specifically those student societies that sign up to the contract. So that would be a separate question entirely to this policy. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay. Any more questions? None seen. Okay, so we've had 2 amendments to this motion. So the first one is from the proposer, so I'm assuming it's taken as standing?
No, it's good.
No, okay. Don't do that to me. Sorry. Okay, so the text of this amendment is change bullet point 6 in section colleges and PPHs training to we will provide training to common room officers who are working to end sexual violence and harassment in Oxford, e.g. bystander intervention training. We strongly encourage common room officers to take this training, and it was proposed by Katie and it was seconded by Farheen. Okay, so that was taken as friendly, so that is then added to the motion. We've had a second amendment, and the text of this amendment is to remove section 3 of the council resolves and the last sentence of appendix 2. So would the proposer...
Let me just see what bits they're referring to.
Yes.
So what is it?
You have to read it. To remove section 3 of the council resolves.
Okay, so which is to approve the liberation vision as a conduct document. which all who work with Oxford SU must adhere to.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying that. And the last sentence of Appendix 2.
And the last sentence of Appendix 2, which is the Queen's University Code of Conduct, is we expect all who work with Oxford SU to adhere to these values and reserve the right to refuse to work with those who do not. So that's sort of following on from the question earlier about what that means. I assume some of that amendment is coming out of concerns about us turning away society as a precious fair and things like that. So I don't take it as friendly.
You don't take it as friendly. Okay, so would the proposer of the amendment please like to come up and give a speech of up to 90 seconds?
Hi, Ruth Bushell, Christchurch, she, her pronouns. So I agree, essentially, that minorities do need to be represented at university. Unfortunately, that's why I'm actually against this motion. So my issue is with the following lines from your Liberation Vision, which state, firstly, in the external organisation section, that we will endeavour to only work with external organisations who agree to adhere to our equality and diversity code of practice. And then in Appendix 2 of the Liberation Vision, it states that Oxford SU's beliefs, priorities and resolutions for working to improve equality and diversity at the University of Oxford are outlined in its Liberation Vision. We expect all who work with Oxford SU to adhere to these values and reserve the right to refuse to work with those who do not. With these statements, the SU is implying that it will have the power to discriminate against societies and groups which do not share their views. I do not see this as part of your role, and indeed it actively works against the inclusion of all students. I think there are a number of societies, and potentially individuals, who would feel under threat if this policy was passed. For example, religious groups with socially conservative views, and societies with different political views regarding either sex work or prevent. Your own document actually notes that religious belief is a protected characteristic under the Equality Act, and thus I find it rather odd that the SU would suggest a motion which seems to be working against religious inclusivity and is as paradoxical to its own beliefs.
10 seconds.
By passing this motion, you're actually working against the European Convention of Rights, as it goes against freedom of speech and freedom of expression. If the SU is allowed to have its own visions and its own beliefs, what it cannot do is enforce these on other societies and on other individuals, because that is totalitarian and actually works against inclusivity of minority groups who may already be feeling marginalised. Thank you.
So the proposers of the motion would like to give a speech of up to 90 seconds.
Fine, I'm an Oxford SU, she, her. So I think the main concern from that whole thing was that you felt that the last line reads that all who work with Oxford SU to adhere to these values. Actually, the values that we're talking about are the ones in the policy. So the right to not discriminate. So the ability so basically for organisations to not discriminate against those marginalised groups. Maybe that's something we should clarify. And I'd be happy to maybe reword that so they did say, you know, we would like people to adhere to the values and that we list in our equality and diversity policy rather than the vision. The vision is for us as an organisation. With regards to the other thing about marginalising specific socially conservative views, I don't think that's necessarily what we have here. What we have here is our statement and what we believe in as an SU. And with regards to other questions, we have terms and conditions that apply elsewhere. So we always reserve the right to refuse with various groups, just as part of an organisational responsibility, because maybe we don't want to be with an organisation which is racist, discriminatory in other ways. So that's basically what we're reiterating here, if that makes sense. That's not really a speech, it's kind of an answer to your question, but is that okay? So can we rework the last sentence maybe, just to make it clarify that? Yeah. I think it's how we have to remember that.
Is that something the proposers of the amendment would be willing to work on? Yeah. Sorry, can I just clarify, is this... a separate, what, are we amending that amendment?
No,
or
we're bringing separate amendment to the main motion.
Are you dropping the last one?
Are you dropping the one that we just...
No.
Okay, so now we're going to move to vote on this first amendment. To remove, where do we have it? To remove resolves 3 and... To remove section 3 of the council resolves and the last sentence of appendix 2. So 1 is for the amendment will become part of the motion. 2 is against the amendment, and 3 is to abstain. 0 is to abstain. Okay, voting will close in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so that amendment falls. We have received a third amendment, and the text of this amendment is to emphasise that working with, for the purposes of the motion and appendix, excludes merely attending SU events and is limited to only joint active partnerships, and to emphasise that working with, for the purposes of the motion and appendix, will not include the freshers' fair. Do you want these as additions to the resolves?
Yes.
So these will be additional.
Can you reread them?
Yeah, so I'll reread them. So these will be added to the resolves to emphasise that working with, for the purposes of the motion and appendix, excludes merely attending SU events and is limited to only joint active partnerships. And the second point is to emphasise that working with, for the purposes of the motion and appendix, will not include the freshers' fair. Is this taken as friendly?
So the thing with the second bit about the freshers' fair,
No, you have to.
I don't know, because I don't think that's something we can include, because the freshers' fair is done separate. And I don't ask Anne about the limitations of the freshers' fair.
Okay, so we just need to clarify whether the second point actually fits within the liberation vision itself, as it's already been mentioned. Freshers' fair is separate to this and has its own rules, so we need to check whether the second point can actually be an amendment. Okay, so we're just going to take a couple of minutes break while we check whether that can actually go through, and then we'll go back. Please don't leave the room. See as fast as you can. Okay, thank you for everybody's patience. So, clarification, we are now taking this as two separate amendments. The first one is taken as friendly, so that is now added to the motion, and to clarify, that is to emphasise that working with, for the purposes of the motion and the appendix, is limited to only joint active partnerships. So that is now part of the motion. The second resolves that was being added, which we've taken as unfriendly, is to emphasise that working with, for the purposes of the motion and appendix, will not include the freshers' fair. So I'd like to invite the proposer of the amendment to give a speech of up to 90 seconds. Sorry.
So Jack Spence, St Edmund Hall, and he, his pronouns. Essentially, this amendment is just to clarify what we've already said, that the motion would not apply to student participation at the Freshers' Fair. So it's just actually improving it to make sure that the sentiment behind the motion is clearer. And I've been told that it's taken as unfriendly merely because, in partnership with the exam schools, the Students' Union doesn't have control over the equality code. But so this really shouldn't make any meaningful harm to anything the SU will actually do.
Okay, thank you very much. So now I'd like Katie to give us the 90 seconds.
So the reason I had to do it as unfriendly is so that I could make this point about the limitations that we have with regards to Freshers' Fair and the SU. So whenever we organise Freshers' Fair, we have to do it in partnership with the venue, and the venue obviously has stakes in who we invite and how we promote it and things like that. So whenever a student society is signing up to Freshers' Fair, you have to sign a terms and conditions, which is a completely separate thing and has its own equality and diversity section in it. So yes, this amendment doesn't make any difference, but like the fact that it doesn't make any difference means it also doesn't really need to be there because it's not something we can do anything with anyway. So that was the clarification, but like it's not really that unfriendly. More of a chance to hear myself speak a bit more.
Thanks very much, Katie. So now we move to vote on this amendment. So just to clarify one last time, the amendment is to emphasise that working with, for the purposes of the motion and appendix, will not include the Freshers' Fair. 1 is for, 2 is against, 0 is abstain. So vote is open now. And voting will close in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And the amendment falls. Okay, so we've had another amendment. I believe this is the last one. And it's taken as friendly because it's from Farnham Katie.
I don't know, if I have to read it, no.
So to add to Appendix 2, we expect all who work with Oxford SU to adhere to the values listed in this policy and reserve the right to refuse to work with those who do not. Okay, so one more time, that is adding to Appendix 2, We expect all who work with Oxford SU to adhere to the values listed in this policy and reserve the right to refuse to work with those who do not. So that's friendly, so that's added to the motion. Okay, so we have now received another amendment. This is the last amendment, so just put that chair ruling, this is the last one. We're at 1 in 5, 6 now. So the amendment reads to replace 2 of notes with the vision will act. So the vision will act as a conduct document for all who wish to work for or with Oxford SU. The vision will act as a conduct document for all those who wish to work with those external organisations who do not. Oh no, so we're replacing all of this. Yeah. Sorry, we're just going to read this to make sure we get it right. Sorry, can the proposer of this amendment just come up so we can clarify this, please?
So the amendment would be to replace Council Notes 2 with the vision will act as a conduct document for all who wish to work for with Oxford SU, and Oxford SU will reserve the right to refuse to work with those external organisations who do not adhere to the beliefs outlined in the vision, and to replace Council Resolves 3 with to approve the Liberation Vision as a conduct document for external organisations who to approve the Liberation Vision as a conduct document all external organisations who work with the Oxford SE. And in Appendix 2, in the last sentence, to replace the last line with they expect all external organisations who work with Oxford SE to adhere to these values.
Can we quickly check just to...
Yeah. Okay, so just... That's fine. Let's bring up the zip line. So it's...
We will be as fast as we can, hopefully in the next minute or so.
I'm just trying to understand what the problem with
Okay, thanks everyone. So we are going ahead with this amendment, and we'll ask the proposer to make a speech in just a second. So just to remind everyone what the amendment is, it is replacing two of the notes, and it would become the vision will act as a conduct document for all those who wish to work for or with Oxford SU, and Oxford SU will reserve the right to refuse to work with those, including external organisations, who do not adhere to the beliefs outlined in the vision, and replacing Council Resolves 3 with to approve the Liberation Vision as a conduct document which all those who work, to all those, including external organisations who work with Oxford SU, must adhere to, and replacing the last line of the vision with we expect all external organisations who work with Oxford SU to adhere to these values and reserve the right to all those, including external organisations who work with Oxford SU, to adhere to these values and reserve the right to refuse to work with those who do not. Okay. So I invite the proposer of the amendment to make a speech for up to 90 seconds.
Okay, Anna Branford, Somerville, she, her. So this amendment is because we want to clarify that all would not necessarily relate to student societies, and since the amendment about Freshers' Fair didn't clear that up. We wanted to try and put in something just to ensure that it's not going to be all students and that, as I said before, this would apply to external organisations instead. I've been told that perhaps not understanding exactly right who the conduct document is being, who's expected to adhere to the conduct document, but since that's not been clarified in the motion, we wanted to try and put in external organisations.
Thanks very much. I'd now invite the proposals of the motion to the speech of 9 seconds in opposition.
Can I read the amendment? Because it's changed. Yeah, so it's with those. So it's what she just said. The amendment is different. So we accept it. What she wants, but what she wants. They don't answer whereas
Sorry, it's getting a bit confusing. Thank you for bearing with us. We're a little bit, I'll just say now, we're a little bit confused because unfortunately the amendment that was just read out basically seemed to add some including external organisations to some of the caveats of the notes and resolves. However, what the proposer of this amendment said was quite different to the actual amendment, so I'm a bit confused, so I'm sorry if I'm not responding to this in the right way now, but basically what we mean by when we say acting as a conduct document, refusing the right to work, is stuff that we already do. We promote societies, we promote our campaigns because they follow the policy as directed by council, and we don't promote things that don't adhere to our policies. So it's kind of an obsolete problem, really. Sorry, I'm all over the place.
Okay, thanks very much. I'm now going to move to vote on that amendment. So 1 for, 2 against, 0 abstain. Okay, so voting closes in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and the amendment falls. And now we're going to move to voting on the motion as a whole. Okay, so again, same, vote 1 to approve the Liberation Vision, 2 to vote against the Liberation Vision, and 0 to abstain.
For student consultation.
Voting is now open, so...
Actually, I don't think it was at the time I said it, and just a little to consider these amendments, I think it might be the best way just to
I'm sorry, voting is open. I did give fair warning that voting was opening. So voting will close in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Challenge to the ruling of the chair.
It wasn't a ruling, it was the call that the voting is open.
No.
So the motion has passed.
Just don't think that's quite the call of the chair was that voting has opened, and the procedural challenge was that no, it was not. And it gets the top of the for an all-student consultation.
I'm sorry, but
well, can we run that? And that wasn't able to vote in time.
Voting is closed. We've got a decision. And the Liberation Vision has been approved. Okay, is there any other business? None seen. Well, that concludes First Week Council, so thanks very much, everybody.
Thank you, Catherine.